Um, in terms of the product itself, this is our user interface. It's Excel. So if you're comfortable in this environment, I think you're going to find Biznet fairly intuitive and easy to learn. So Biznet users do not need to be saved users. They'll open up Excel like they do now. And when they want to access the reporting pane, they simply open it up. Pre-built for Sage 100 is what I'm showing today, is obviously the financial reporting integration. We integrate to a third-party product built for Sage 100 for multi-currency conversion. This is sales and expense modules. For Sage 500, the project accounting module is added to this list. The next round will be inventory scheduled for Q2, so we're going to continue to extend it. Our focus today will be on financial reporting, but if there's a question about reporting from other components, please let me know. So in terms of getting started with Biznet, you've got a few options. Any Excel spreadsheets you've been using, since we're native to Excel, those are great starting points. We can leverage all that formatting and functionality. You can use one of our pre-built templates, or we can easily take an FRX report if you're currently using FRX. In terms of the template list here, this is the one area of the navigation pane that is going to be completely tailored by you. So as you create your report, you can certainly modify our pre-built list. Just right-click and start adding all your own reports here as so. So Biznet users can open up Excel. They want to access, let's say, income statement reports. They'll just grab it, drag it into Excel, and at the time you drag it in, it is current. Unlike the Excel reports you're used to dealing with, this is what we call a live link report, and it allows users to interact real-time with the database. So based on how a designer builds the report, in this case, a parameter was provided so I can look at different companies, different fiscal years, and different locations, which is one of my segments. I can have as many of these parameters as required. So this is looking at this 3-month trend consolidated. I can easily just interact by changing values as so. Okay. If I want to reformat this to become instead of a 3-month trend, a 6 or 12-month trend, you can just simply drag and drop, and you see how easily the report is to reformat. In terms of drill down capability, if I want to, say, take a closer look at this total revenue number for the month of March, I simply right-click on the cell. Down here under all your standard Excel right-click options, you can see I can drill and look at balances or transactions. And in our drill downs, no matter where we're drilling down into what module, we provide a list or pivot table format, all pre-built. So a list is just that. It's just going to take in this case, take all the transaction detail that makes up that total revenue number and list it out on a separate tab. So we're going to select that option. It's going to go grab the detail, and you'll see here this is the list of transactions making up that total revenue number for the month of March for that year, that company. But when you start getting a lot of transactions, this listing is a little harder to work with, and so it's sometimes easier to start with a pivot table format. And this is, again, all pre-built for you because it will organize and allow you to kind of slice and dice a little easier. So in this particular format, you can have any number of defaults. I'm right now looking at my main account code and as a default by post amount, for example. But each user could maybe want to see this information a little differently and therefore create a different format or default format. So maybe they want to look at it by description, account description. Maybe they want to see the full formatted account, GL account number. So again, just depending on how you want the data presented, you can have those options available to you. But more importantly, now to be able to slice and dice and organize this list of transactions a little easier. So maybe I want to see it now by GL number, but in addition to that, I want to see it by post date. Maybe I want to see the posting comments by post date. So just click on the fields in the order that you want it presented, and it will all dynamically change this drill down view for you. You can drag any field in this list and drag it as a column label. So for example, if I wanted to break it down by, let's say, my department or my location segment, I can just drag it and easily just get a breakdown by that field type. So all of a sudden now I'm able to look at transactions organized by GL number, by post date, by location code. And so I can just double click and see just the detail for any one of these numbers just by double clicking on it again. And every request will create a separate tab for me, which I could label and save or not save. So you can kind of see how the drill down capability works. In terms of formatting, we have complete flexibility. We no longer have to live within column and row definitions. Every cell could bring in different types of data. So if you have the other modules and you wanted to maybe even enhance the expense lines here and be able to break some of these down by vendor, I could drill directly to AP from the same report. I certainly have that flexibility, okay? Or maybe break this down by sales rep or product line or customer. So again, you have complete flexibility of pulling from different modules into the same report. Focusing on the financial reporting, this is a trend. Just kind of show you a couple of different formatting scenarios of the same report. We're now looking at a quarterly view here for the year, so I can drill on a whole quarter, a whole year. And using the Excel grouping, I still may want to be able to look at the individual months, but I want to now kind of look at more of a top level by quarter. So again, it's just a formatting exercise, and we're going to build a report here in a minute so you can kind of see how easy all this is to build. Flip-flopping now the periods for, in this case, the locations. I'm able to now, look at it on a month-by-month basis, but I want to do a comparative across my locations. And this could be departments, it could be companies, anything can be in the column. So kind of just, it's, again, you can lay these out accordingly. We've got a trend report here. This is a rolling 12-month trend. And again, the idea of our reports is you want to be able to just change the parameters without ever going back into the body of the report. So I can just put in my current month, and you'll see based on the current month, it's going to give me this 12-month trend. And standard Excel functionality allowing me to add charts and graphs to my reports and do some really cool dashboarding, as you'll see. So this is just kind of picking up just this one line. It could pick up as many lines as you wanted, but this is just kind of, again, if you wanted it to include the individual sales lines, you could kind of see here this is just all standard kind of Excel functionality. So you can kind of just build these dynamic charts. So let's look at how we actually create a report. And again, if anyone has questions, either please ask me or submit a question in the chat box, and we're happy to answer those for you. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to build a report from scratch, and it's going to be a very simple expense analysis report. And I've got this set up to build a trend. And what I'm going to do right now is more commonly we get asked for a month-to-date, year-to-date, kind of year-over-year comparison. So it's pretty simple to build as well as a trend. Instead of putting the periods in the columns, I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to basically create a month-to-date column, I'm going to create a year-to-date column, and we're going to create a prior year month-to-date, year-to-date column. Okay? So we have 2 fiscal years in our demo company. So I'm going to start with the most current year, and to get the prior year, I'll simply take the current year minus 1. So we always get the prior year. So I've kind of laid out my format. We've got our company here, our fiscal year here, our period here. We've got now our row formats laid out. A couple of things to point out here. How do I get started with those row formats? 2 real viable options. If you're coming off of FRX, very simply copy and paste from your row format into Excel, and we'd make a few adjustments on the formatting, but it's a simple copy and paste into Excel. As I mentioned, you may not be a Sage user, and you may not have access to anything set up in Sage, but you're a report designer for Biznet, and you're working with a blank sheet. Now what? Well, this is where the analysis sets are really handy. As I mentioned, you have pre-built reports to getting access to your data, but really more importantly is kind of the list capability here. So this is all set up in terms of what's set up in your particular system. It's all pre-built. So as a user, if I'm not familiar with the account structure, in other words, what segment is my department location, I can certainly get that information. And you can get all the list capability, if any budget codes by companies, account groups, etc. So this is always current. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to basically request my main account code list. Just drag, everything is drag and drop from the navigation pane into Excel. And I'm going to just put in my company code, and now it's going to real time give me a list of all the main account codes for this company. So I could filter this list, very easily. Also, I can just copy and paste, etc., into another spreadsheet. So I've kind of done that just to sort of select where we've got data. We have a lot of accounts with no data. So that's kind of the two easiest ways to get started. We're going to look at single accounts in our rows, and then we'll look very quickly at more complex row formats. But just keep in mind that every row can have a completely different format. You can have a single account, a non-contiguous list, multiple ranges with additions or exclusions to those ranges, wildcard, account groups, etc. So they can be as varied and as complex as you need them to be. So we're ready to get started. We've laid out our row format with our main account codes in the rows, our columns, and our parameters here. And we're going to come over to our function set. And basically now you can see we have pre-built functions to pull month-to-date, year-to-date, and budget data as part of the financial reporting package. When I look at the month-to-date list, these are very logical once you get used to them. Again, this is going to return a month-to-date net balance. This is going to return a credit balance, a debit balance. If you're keeping statistical or non-financial data associated with the account, this is going to give me that non-financial data, okay? So if you have an account group set up, you can pull by account group in addition to individual account codes. And you've got all your equivalent year-to-date and budget functions. So we're going to build this first column out using the month-to-date net balance function, grab it, drag it into this first cell. It opens up our function, and basically this is a one-time process, and all I need to do is identify where these arguments are in my spreadsheet, and I just do that through cell referencing. Notice, too, it's going to prompt me for the required arguments. For financial reporting to pull something, I need a minimum, a company, a fiscal year, and a fiscal period. So where did we put our company code in this report? I'm just going to reference the cell. You'll see it makes the cell reference here, and it validates as I go along that I've clicked on the right cell. And now I'm going to hit my function 4 key to do my row and column anchoring. If you're not familiar with this, this is what is going to allow me to drag and drop or copy and paste the function. So it's identifying the company as being anchored in column B, anchored in row 3 always. So hitting it once anchors both. So all of these are absolute positions, not going to move. And when I'm now for the account number, I can specify the full formatted account, GL account number. We typically do it by main account code because it's with far fewer or less accounts to specify, but you can do it either way. And in this case, I want to anchor the column as I drag it down, but not the row. So we're going to anchor the column, but not the row. And I'm not going to break out my sub-accounts, so anything not required will be rolled up all values for that argument. So it's returning a number, looks good. Click OK. I don't ever have to do that again. That's a one-time build, and every time I open this up, that cell will be live linked to my Sage data, in this case, Sage 100. So I'm going to just drag the function down. You've got all of your Excel formatting and functionality, so all that. That's why we can take all your existing spreadsheets and leverage all that. So we'll just show you a sum function works great. And now as soon as you add a function, hopefully that looks pretty straightforward. The drill down's all pre-built for you, and it's all live linked, so I can start changing things like period and year and things like that. So hopefully there's no questions. If there are, please ask me. So let's go ahead and build out the other columns here. I'm going to bring in the segment description up here, and you can see all the functions that will pull in the various descriptors. And again, what I want for this column here is the main account description. So we're going to drag that in, and all these functions work the same. So once you kind of learn how to build one, you can use any function in the entire system, okay? So we've kind of got that. Let's go ahead and finish out the columns here. So we've got our account description, our month-to-date, we've got our year-to-date. Now I'm going to show you a couple little shortcuts here. For the year-to-date column, I could come over here and grab the year-to-date net balance, just like I did the month-to-date, and build it out again. But there's no need to always build out from scratch. All of our month-to-date, all of our year-to-date functions ask me for the exact same arguments. So a little shortcut is, because of that, I'm just going to copy the already built function and come up here and simply name it, rename it year-to-date. That's a little shortcut. Also now I don't have to build out the other columns from scratch. I'm just going to copy and paste. In this case, instead of renaming, I need to edit the function. And the only difference between the two columns is the year reference. So in this case, instead of looking at the current year cell, I want to just reference the prior year cell we set up, anchor it, click OK. And again, for the prior year, year to date, I'm going to just rename it. And hopefully everybody followed that okay, but you can kind of see it's pretty easy. So I can just build them all the way across, drag them all down at the same time, and we're done. Save that off, and I don't ever have to do that again. Anybody have any questions so far? You guys all good? Okay. I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So, a couple things I'm going to very quickly go through how to do lists, ranges, wildcards, just to kind of show you the ease of doing that. In the remaining part of the demo, we're going to touch on doing roll-ups. We're going to look at consolidation, budgeting, and report distribution, and we're going to do that hopefully in the next 20 minutes or so. So we're going to cover a lot of ground. And if anyone has any questions about any of that or would like to see something else, just let us know. So very simply, we built a row format with single accounts here. Now I'm going to talk about how we handle lists, which is a list of values. First off, let's look at the total. I use the sum function, but I need a Biznet function to be able to drill on. So I want to create a function so I can see all expense detail for the month, not just individual accounts. So we're going to copy and paste this function. And again, we're going to edit the function. And up until now, all you see me do is reference one cell. But I can reference any number of values. So here, I'm going to just select the entire list that makes up the total, anchor it. You can see it's referencing all those accounts. And I put it below the sum function here, so you'll see now I get the same amount, only now I can drill and see all expense detail for the month. So that's our list capability. Let's look at lists for rows. So let's say you had all of these accounts made up this other expenses row format. All of our values are in separate cells, so we do and reference values by cells. So let's say you have 5 or 10 different non-contiguous accounts. It could be a little cumbersome to maintain and list all these accounts in every row for every report for other expenses. So I'm going to show you a better way in those scenarios to do lists. We're going to come over here, copy that list, and paste it into the spreadsheet for now. And I'm going to give it whatever name I want using the Excel name reference. In this case, I'm just going to call it Other for other expenses. And right now in this workbook, every sheet can reference this list by this name called Other. Okay? If I want to make it a global reference, I can do that with a feature we call Set Property, which stores it in a database so you can save it in one place, and all workbooks and all Biznet reports from this point on could access that list. So instead of referencing cells, now what you're going to do is you'll simply reference the name, Other, and you'll see how it populates all those accounts. So that's our list capability. A range is simply specifying 2 values. So I can do lists and ranges for years, periods, and any of my segments. So by only having 2 values, we default as a range between those 2. So 3 or more is a list, 2 is a range. So if I wanted to just extend my reference, I don't even have to open up the account, or the function rather, and you'll see that easily we just now made that range of accounts. Okay, so defaulting for 2 defaults as a range, and I could do that for periods as well. If I wanted to make this, this range of periods, again, I can simply just extend the reference here, so you can easily do that. Okay, so let's wildcarding very quickly is our asterisk character. So if telephone expense is all 600, we would put 6 asterisks. All 640 accounts would be 64 asterisks. So you can put it in any digit position, a single asterisk. Okay. So if there aren't any questions on report building, I want to kind of move on because we do have a lot to cover, but hopefully you get a feel for the flexibility of the formatting and the report building. Okay. So let's come over here and look at roll-ups very quickly. For those of you that need to do roll-ups, let's look at an income statement roll-up real quickly. And this is very simple to build. What we've got here is our locations rolling into, look at piece here, rolling into a region. We don't have a region segment, but we're creating that grouping or that roll-up rolling into all regions. Okay? So very simple to build and very easy to maintain. And if anyone would like me to show you how we actually maintain, if you want to add a new location or region to this list very easily, I'm happy to take a minute to show you that. So if anybody would like to see that, let me know. But it's very easy to build, very easy to enhance and add locations, move them around, etc. Okay. So moving on from that, for those of you that have multiple entities, consolidations, as I mentioned, is a strength. This is simply, you've seen examples where we've had the period in the columns doing a trend. The example where we had our location codes in the columns, well, this is just now putting the company codes in the columns. And for those of you that have multiple entities with the same chart of accounts, you'll just anchor the company code for the row, and you'll just drag the function across where they have the same chart of account. It's just going to pick up the company code in each of the columns. It's that simple to build. But this is an example, and many of our clients were challenged in prior reporting solutions with the fact that they had different charts and different fiscal calendars. So here you can see our ABC company is referencing column D with the 3-digit main account code. Our ABX company is referencing column F with a 5-digit main account code. So again, where they're completely different, we typically hide the GL numbers anyway, so we're just referencing different columns. So every company could look completely different. In addition to that, these have fiscal calendar, different fiscal calendars. So ABC company, February equates to fiscal period 2, and ABX, that equates to fiscal period 8. So we can easily show completely disparate charts of accounts and calendars consolidated. No magic there, pretty simple to build. Okay. Dashboarding is something I think is great with Excel, so the ability to create some nice dashboards, maybe for an executive summary level that are all interactive or that can be published out, is just standard kind of Excel functionality that, sits on top of our functions. So build them once and they'll always be current. Okay. Let's look at budgeting. And notice I can have as many templates open as I want. It just opens another instance of Excel. You also don't have to worry about locking down spreadsheets. Users can come in, modify the report. Even if they hit save, it will not override the template format. And we don't write back data, so there's really nothing users can harm, so there's no reason to lock down spreadsheets. Okay, so let's look at the budgeting process very quickly. And then if there's an interest, we'll just kind of highlight some of the other modules here and look at report distribution. Okay, so for those of you that are doing your budgeting and keeping your budgets in Sage, not a requirement, but in Math, Sage 100, this will work really good for you. And this is part of the GL, the financial reporting package or integration. So I'm going to take you through a scenario of getting your budgets built for the new year. And hopefully this resonates, or this is similar to the process you might be using. So we're going to grab a budget build report. And what you're going to see here is I have the ability to create a budget. And in this scenario, we're going to take our prior year actual, and I want to generate the new budgets by location for each individual location, and I want to send them their own budget reports for the new year to review. So we're going to start with the prior year actuals. And we have a tab here that allows us to enter any number of assumptions to build the new budget. So I can add flat rates, percentage rates, or both. And I have any number of other criteria, like maybe I want to allocate my variable expenses by headcount. And I can turn these things on or off, okay? So based on these parameters that I've entered, I can now look at the new budget report. Notice I'm going to have just one template, one version of this report, whether I'm looking at the actuals, the new budget scenario, and I can also look at it by individual location. Okay, so based on those assumptions, how the allocations, everything. So what I want to quickly now do is publish these out. We'll go through the publishing in a little bit more detail. But publishing is a single click when you want to publish on demand. So we just generated the new budget scenario. We're going to publish everybody's own budget reports out by location. And they're going to just be emailed, but you have options of publishing to a folder as well. I'm just going to take a look at one of these here real quickly so you can kind of see how that works. So here's the Houston budget sent to the Houston office manager. And here's our cover sheet. And basically, notice, remember we started with one template, but it generated two versions. Here's my current proposed new budget, the assumptions provided, and the reference to the prior year. So I can kind of look at the prior year actual. So again, just a static report. They do not need to be a Biznet user to receive the static report. They can review the numbers, etc. And once those all get approved and imported into Sage, you now have the ability to do all your budget versus actual. Again, one report template. I could look at it consolidated or for each location. So once they're in Sage, you have all the drill down details of the budget as well as the actual. You've got your month-to-date, year-to-date budget versus actual comparisons. And as you revise the budget, you're just going to basically change whatever you called it in Sage, and all your budget numbers change automatically. So again, the only difference between the budget function and the actuals is it's the budget code that I need to reference. In this case, it's the original budget, and it could have any number of revisions, as you know. And these budget revisions could be sitting even side by side if you want to do a comparison in that regard. So very simple to build, same exact process. Lastly, you might have a report that looks something like this, where you're looking at some number of actuals against the forecast or budget for the year, and to update this for the new month, just drag and drop. And I've got 2 months of actual and, you know, the rest forecast or budget. So very easy to reformat, and then for the new year, you just roll them back, change your budget code, your budget year, and you're good to go. Okay, moving through this pretty quickly. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so we're goal with today, I think, is to give you just a sense of what you can do. I'm going to wrap it up with talking a little bit more about that report distribution. It's a real strong suit. For those of you manually creating emails, PDFs, this can certainly streamline and eliminate all of that manual process for distribution. Just very quickly, the expense, you can do all kinds of rankings and tracking by vendor, by product line. You can do rankings by customer, territories, item, that kind of thing. We have aging, aged payables, aging. We're adding the AR aging here shortly, but they're fairly complete. There's a lot of functions in here that allow you to track all kinds of sales and expense analysis. You can kind of just see some of the functions available. Okay, so that's just kind of a little sneak peek there. So let's look at report distribution, and we'll kind of wrap up with that. Let me just clear out my inbox again. And let's look at now setting up, what's involved with setting up your distribution. And again, this is a one-time setup. You've got a workbook of financial reports I want to set up for distribution. I'm going to open up the workbook. And the first time in, I'll come up to the Biz Broadcast ribbon, which is our publication piece. I'll click on New Distribution Template. Oops, sorry, it already exists. Didn't mean to click on it. When you click on that, it's going to add this sheet and tablet to your workbook. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to fill out your instructions for distribution. Basically what I'm doing is I've got a cover sheet here, and I'm just distributing by one parameter location, but there's no limit to the number of distribution parameters you can have, company, department, division, however you want to distribute the reports by. So we've got an income statement we're going to distribute by location, a budget versus actual report by location. We've got a dashboard report. So again, set that up. We'll click that distribution template, and basically this gets added and saved to the workbook. And you're basically in Excel going to fill out your instructions for distribution of this workbook. So that every month all you do is open it up. Publishing on demand becomes a single click. We do have a scheduler if you want to have reports automatically published. So let's look at the flexibility, because we can really personalize the reports that get published. because everybody can have a different format, method of distribution, and content. So they'll create a PDF for certain workbooks. You can, for Biznet users where you want to package up a report, you're going to specify a regular Excel format in whatever version of Excel they have. And users within your company can be concurrently on 2003, 7, and 10. For your non-Biznet users that want it in Excel, you're going to specify the appropriate values only version of Excel. And you can even publish out to a portal in HTML. So format of each report, let's look at a regular Biznet report in 2003. A different Excel format is a non-Biznet report of values only. So format, method of distribution, folder, email, you can do both. I can have, basically if I want to publish out to a shared folder, but I don't want the reports shared, you have an option in this broadcast to set up unique passwords at the sheet level, the workbook level, or both. So again, you can password protect, and this is not the Excel password protect because that gives everybody the same password. So folder, email, you can have as many emails in a single cell, utilize distribution lists as long as they're all getting the same report. I have different lines here because, as you'll see, the content of what I'm sending is different. The selection tab allows you to specify what tabs you want to include in each individual report, and in this case, Jan's the only one getting the dashboard. If you're emailing, you can do all your standard email options. You can send other types of documents. We'll put just text in the body here. And then this is where you're going to pass parameters. Again, you can have multiple parameters, and you can pass different parameters for each report. We're going to pass one, and we're going to pass the same parameter. So Fred is going to get this workbook in a PDF format, but just for Los Angeles. Jan's getting an Excel format just for Miami. She's also getting the dashboard. Our manager and our VP, we are passing multiple parameters. So we're passing 3 parameters, so they want to see consolidated and then the 2 locations broken out. So they're going to get 3 income statements, 3 budget reports. You only have to maintain 1, but you can generate as many. So if you were passing 5 company codes and 10 department codes, it would generate 50 income statements. So in one workbook or one PDF, which is kind of cool. So we're ready to go. Publishing on demand every month would come down to 1 click of the button. That's going to be the extent of your distribution effort. And we'll look at these. These are going to look very personalized. So a sneak peek of that when we did the budgeting, but these are going to look very different. So here's our PDF format, our text in the body. And remember, I've got it just for Los Angeles. Hopefully you can see here our reports just for Los Angeles in a PDF format. Janet got it as a regular Biznet user in an Excel 2003 format for Miami. So here's her cover sheet, and she got the drill down. So she has a Biznet license, so she's got the regular Excel format. She also got, for Miami only though, and she got the dashboard. And looking at the manager here, we passed multiple locations, and this is now in the PDF format. Hopefully you can see this. Let's blow this up a little bit. Our cover sheet, and the bookmarking is nice because I can not only see what's on each page, but you can see how it bursted out all the different iterations, consolidated each location, not each of the reports.